The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in a Rev, Hump Day.
The day after a vicious debate on Channel 10.
Yeah, and a very abbreviated debate, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
That's the problem, because you can't really get into, deep into stuff. But, it was a little chippy. It was a little...
You could see how uncomfortable Paul Coogan was. And he kept focusing on one or two phrases, and he kept bringing it back to that memo.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying he's going to be a part-time mayor.
Yeah.
That Cliff is going to be a part-time mayor.
Well,
that's all wrong.
Yeah.
That's all wrong. Wow. And as Cliff said right at the outset, it was a mistake. That was to keep his employees comfortable, knowing that if they needed him, he'd be available. And that can happen.
Yeah.
That's why people carry around phones.
Yeah, well, you're right. The reality is that, listen, it was terribly phrased. I mean, it's the wrong word. And that's the problem when you're a politician. And especially with a guy like Paul, who harps on every number, every word, that's what they key on. Look, he's got no record to run on. He hasn't done anything. So what does he do? Look, that's standard campaign strategy. You know that, CJ.
Right.
You've been trained to do that. It was like when they had Sarah Palin and they told her to not answer any questions, just keep repeating the same thing, and also not refer to the vice president by his name because she couldn't pronounce it. Mm-hmm. And they even made a Showtime documentary on that.
Yes, they did.
And on how they said, wow, she's just got nothing. So so this is what Paul does. He gets on there and they said, okay, you're going to hit him on that and you're going to keep repeating this phrase and then say this and say that. And they gave him some numbers to spout. This is why... I'm sure he was in heaven during that debate, because the reality was it's a half an hour.
Right.
So you don't have any time to rebut. They just went on to the next question.
That's right.
And he made some statements that were just, look, and I put out 400 and something thing in the industrial park. He didn't, you don't do half of that stuff. The thing that got me, and I'm going to check into it, when they were talking about the hole in the budget, there's no hole in the budget. We got this, you got $5 million at this place. Then he said he's got another $4 million in health care.
Yes, he did.
I want to know where that $4 million is, Paul. Cliff won't ask you, but I'm going to find out. Because I don't know where the $4 million is. I know that the retirees are now changing a plan that's going to save, in the short term, about $2.3 million. But that's not all city money. Obviously, the retirees have 25%. So it's $1.7 million. Right now, the active plans are running under budget, but they're not running $2 million under budget. They're not close to $2 million under budget. And obviously, even at $2.3 million, this is a projection. It's dependent.
Isn't that for next year?
Next year. Yeah, it's not.
It's not even this year.
It's only for next year.
Right.
Which we're going to have a deficit in the budget next year. So even if they use that money, they're going to probably have to put it on top of the other money from opera and the other money he's using to plug all the holes. And listen, this is what you can't get in on a debate. All Cliff had to say was, didn't your chief of staff say that this is going to be a long-term deficit? It's not going to be just for this coming year, this coming budget, and a year after.
You mean the chief financial officer?
Chief financial officer. What did I say?
Chief of staff.
Yeah, well, almost the same thing.
Almost the same thing.
She would have said the same thing anyway. I'm sorry. I was my nose started.
I
running.
don't
I'm
want
sorry.
Paul calling saying you've got it wrong.
No, you're right. You're right. He loves to point out the leaves and the branches and not the whole forest.
Exactly.
But this is the problem that we have, and at least I have, and I know you do. We have with these half-an-hour debate forums. And this is the problem with debates. When you have a moderator, and look, it wasn't Valicenti's fault. He's got a half an hour. He wanted to get some questions in, and he wanted to make it a little lively, and he did. But the reality is you can't really get into the nuts and bolts of it. This is why I believe Paul doesn't want 6 debates, because now you got plenty of time. Anything that was brought up in the first debate that you couldn't address, you can get in the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth.
Right.
Gives you plenty of time to cover a lot of ground and really make it something that the people can get something out of. That debate was a lot of noise without a hell of a lot of content.
Right.
Really.
It was taking, they were taking jabs at each other.
Yeah.
There was no question about it. It was a poorly designed boxing match. That you'll understand.
Two amateurs, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And although those jabs were significant, they could cause some damage.
Yeah.
For instance, Paul kept saying, he wants to be a full-time mayor, but he doesn't even know the charter. Paul, you don't know the charter. You have somebody else reading it for you. Because if you knew the charter, you would understand that you can't just read one section and ignore the second section. Sean Kadim said it quite well. You've got to learn to read the charter from page 1 to page 30. Not just read page 2 and that's it.
Yeah. And hopefully, in this second debate, when they go there,
Which is tonight.
yeah, Cliff will say exactly what you say, because he should have jumped on him with both feet when he said that, saying, how about the sections of the charter you ignored, like you have to give us information, like
Right.
you have to come down. No, well, this is the whole problem. He hit him on this, and I liked when he said, you don't know anything about government. Well, I hate to say it, Paul, but you don't know a hell of a lot either. You've been running around. Without Mary Sahadi, you'd be walking around, you'd be hiding in a closet somewhere so nobody could find you. And everybody knows that. You don't know anything about health care, but you'll take all the credit because that savings is not from you. That was a plan that our consultants Gallagher brought forth. That's what they do every year. That's what they've done for years.
That's what they're paid to do.
That's what they're paid to do. When they said, well, they looked at the landscape and said, well, if we carve out the pharmaceuticals, we could save money, and we did. Now they brought up this plan and said, look, this is a new product. It looks like it can save us a lot of money, and we negotiated, and we're going to give it a shot, and we put some safeguards in. But that negotiation process took months. And he had no part of it. If we could get him in here now and sit him between us, I don't even know if he knows the premium rate. But he's going to take the credit for the savings and everything else. But
Right.
that's politics. I'm not going to, they all do that. It's, when things go wrong, you did it. When things go right, we did it.
Oh, you mean like him
I did
being
it.
up at talking about the industrial park and he's taking credit for it?
Yeah.
We barely have any space of it. That was done long before him. As a matter of fact, the biggest expansion of the industrial park took place under Will Flanagan and Jason Correa.
Correct.
I mean, I hate saying it, but I mean, that's the case.
But it's true.
Yeah. And, I don't see much of an expansion. Why? Because somebody wants another 50,000 square feet?
And not only that, CJ, let's give credit, like I always say, give credit where credit is due. We've worked with HR, Madeline Coelho, and HR, and Gallagher, and all the other PEC members have worked diligently for years to try to get the best bang for our buck in health care. But they don't get, it's always a politician that takes credit. How about the group? Isn't Hetzler still a group of something? Isn't Carl Hetzler the group of
He's the industrial board president.
yeah, so you're not going to give them any credit for trying to bring people into their own?
I guess not.
I guess not. I guess they had nothing to do with it. It was all you. You went up there and, like every good politician, if during a campaign, If they're opening an envelope, you'll go take a picture while they're opening the envelope. So, let's put, this is why we tell the people, listen, look at the facts, follow the money, see what's going on, do your homework, because this stuff is nothing more than political minutia and BS. During a campaign, they're going to take every picture they can. Oh, I marched with the, get out of here. Why weren't you there? Well, maybe you didn't feel like taking a knee. Maybe you can say, those people had every right to peacefully demonstrate. However, I would rather stand for the flag than kneel with people who want to cut public safety. But that's just me. You want to do that, Paul? Go for it, and try to make it like you're defending the police. You're all for public safety, yet you marched with people who want to defund the police and kill the police.
That's what I was going to say. He touted that. Where were you? When I was out there, I was walking with protesters. Why were you walking with protesters? You're the mayor.
And what were they protesting?
They were protesting the police.
Yeah, exactly.
So why were you protesting the police, Mr. Mayor? Oh, wait a minute. You support the police, but you also support these people. This is what you mean, political dichotomies. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
And, your whole administration has been political dichotomies. Just look at what happened on Monday. You were invited down to the city council meeting. You refused to show up. You sent an email saying that. Those items before the Committee on Ordinance, a position in MIS and the water and sewer rates. The position in MIS, I believe, was granted a leave to withdraw, and the water rates were tabled again. No water rate increase. Why? Because you failed to allow the city's chief financial officer to attend the meeting. You refused to let her go. She sent an email saying clearly that the mayor has said I cannot go. I have been restricted from attending the meeting. She cannot go. What are you going to do on Monday's meeting, on Tuesday's meeting? You're not going to send her down again? You want resolutions on everything?
Even though they sent them a letter from the charter. And, I think that segues into another issue about the two Paul Coogans. The Paul Coogan that wants to say, oh, I'm bringing people together. I marched with the protesters. Well, look, why wasn't he there? Same reason I wasn't there. I'm not going to march with people who want to harm other people, who condone and encourage violence. Maybe they didn't do it on that particular day, but they were affiliated. They had BLM flags. And what is BLM's platform? Destroy the nuclear family, kill police officers, defund the police, eliminate prisons and let criminals out. They committed heinous crimes and were never prosecuted. So you're on their side. I'm not. I'm on the side of the police. I'm on the side of law and order. I'm on the side of having a safe city. So I won't march with those people. I will respect their right under the Constitution to peacefully protest. Peacefully. I will never support their right to kill people, burn things down, and destroy property. But that's just me. That's just my personal feelings.
Who do you think you are?
That's right. So you can do that. But the Paul Coogan that's Mr. Oh, I see. I'm on with all sides. I tamped it down. Come on, Jesus. That's the same Paul Coogan who throws anybody that disagrees with him off any board. And also now has said publicly, the Mercs will never do business in this city.
That's right.
You had the audacity to question me. You will never do. I don't care how much that business will bring into Fall River. We'll find another one that will give us what we want. I think that Cliff missed a big opportunity.
I know. I would have stuck
I
that
would
right
have
up his backside.
stomped him. I would have stomped him with that.
Yep.
And it was all lies. Really? The guy had phone records. Go to the campaign finance record. See if they did make it. You saw it.
They did.
You had it on your phone.
I had it on my phone.
You had it on your phone.
$125 a piece.
We said it yesterday on the bottom line.
Yep.
They contributed, and they had the phone record. They got a call a half an hour later.
Right.
They have the checks. They haven't canceled the refund checks that were non-refundable.
They refused to cancel the check, as a matter of fact. They said they won't do it.
And their lawyer, I believe, filed an 8-page affidavit.
Yes, he did.
With all these things. So obviously they have some evidence. I'm not saying that it's true, but they do have some evidence. Their lawyer's filing a case. We're going to have to go to court to determine who's lying, Paul. You just summarily dismissed them because they had the audacity to get up in public and call you out.
And the funny part about it is that came up again in the debate. And in all fairness to Cliff, that information had not come out about them not doing business with the city until after the debate.
Oh, that's right. They taped that early in the morning.
Yeah, they taped that earlier in the morning.
Okay.
So in all fairness to Cliff, but Cliff has a debate today.
Yeah,
so guess what? If it comes up again, he needs to stomp on him.
Yep.
He needs to stomp on him with this. And here's the other thing. The Mercs went out of their way, and Paul said that Cliff called them to bring them in for citizens' input. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's truth. I don't know if that's a lie. I don't know if it's somewhere in the middle. But the gentleman came in, and he broke down and cried. He broke down and cried because this was his business. And he has he's filing for a special license. Mm-hmm. And a social license, as a matter of fact. And this mayor doesn't care. Doesn't care. As a matter of fact, he's gone so far as to say, I will never do business with these people. Well, maybe you won't have to, Paul. Maybe you won't get reelected. Maybe you won't. You never know what's going to happen. I can tell you right now, we're going to be here. But, and we're going to call it out. Whether it's you or Cliff Ponte, who's mayor next year, we're going to use the same standard on looking at your candidacy, look at your administration, and look at what's happening. We are fair and equal.
But let's look at the duplicity of what he said. He said that it's all lies. And then he went on to say that everything they said about the budget is untrue. I have the money. I've got $5 million in here, and I've got $4 million from healthcare, and I got this, I got that. It's all lies. Well, if it was all lies, Paul, why didn't you send your CFO down there and have it take the papers, put it on a desk, and say, okay, this is how we funded these deficits. One thing we did establish, you admitted there was a $9.6 million deficit, but you said you got it plugged. Are you afraid somebody's going to shoot holes in how you plugged it again? Why didn't you come up? See, this is the thing. This is why he's duplicitous. Because he's always got a story. And I got word that he didn't even want to talk about the health care for retirees till after November 1st. What's after November 1st?
The election.
He doesn't want anything about that stuff. He's going to then, depending on the outcome, we'll see how he goes. But the fact is that, listen, that's, to me, you just hung yourself. You admitted it was a $9.6 million budget, and you said you had the answers. Why didn't you go down and give the answers?
That's right.
If you had them. Why didn't you expose, truly expose, that not only Cliff Ponte, but all the people except for your two bobbleheads on the city council had legitimate questions on how you were going to fix this budget long term, not in the short term, as Sean Kadim so eloquently made an analogy. It's like if you get laid off and you can't pay your bills for 2 months, so you're in arrears 2 months, when you get your job back, you figure out how to pay them because you got money coming in. When you have a structural deficit, you've been fired. You have no money. So you can't pay those debts ever. It's a structural deficit. Then he used the house. If you have structural if the house is structurally unsound, they don't even allow people to go in it. So we can have a budget that you want us to go into that we shouldn't be going into. Why don't you just, if it is all lies, or if you really do have an answer, because I don't think what the city council's doing is lying about the budget. They have a legitimate perspective based on the way you're doing it, and Sean Kadim probably forgot more about finances than you ever knew. As a matter of fact, there's no probablys. He's forgotten more than you do, because he is a city administrator. He was a city administrator. He understands the dynamics. If he says there's a structural deficit, he sees a structural deficit. Now, he may not see the full picture, but he cannot see the full picture with you as mayor because you don't tell anybody anything.
Exactly.
All you had to do was come down and finish the picture. But you didn't.
We're left hanging. We don't know where the story ends.
That's right.
And we're still going to not know where the story ends because we won't know until there is something there. And personally, I firmly believe, and I hope Paul proved me wrong, but I firmly believe that if they put the budget on the agenda for Tuesday, I'm quite sure you will not send Mary Sahadi down. I am quite sure. But here's my advice to the city council, except for the bobbleheads. If he sends anything down for appropriations, bonding, any of that, reject it. Grant it all leave to withdraw. Don't pay for it. Don't do anything. He can't come down and tell you how to pay for it, then you can't pay for it. You don't have the money, you don't spend the money. Let's make it clear. We cannot keep spending ourselves into debt, especially when we don't know where the debt is or how we're going to pay the debt. So my suggestion to the city council for Tuesday's meeting is if you don't have the chief financial officer there, then every financial issue that comes before the council should be rejected. Should be flat out rejected. Grant it leave to withdraw, table it, do whatever you want, but forget it. Don't give in. Hold your ground. Hold your ground. If this is going to become a pissing match between the administration and the city council, the legislative branch has to win. Has to win.
And let's remember who's being urinated on. It's taxpayers. The taxpayers are being urinated with this contest. And the fact is that, refresh my memory, but at that last meeting, which Paul referred to as a campaign rally.
Yes, he did.
Not a meeting, so another disrespect. Everything you do were you marching with those demonstrators? A Coogan campaign rally? Were you trying to get their votes? You're going to chip in for the bail funds for some of them? Did you give to Kamala Harris's bail fund for the BLM? I don't know. Did you? Maybe we'll have to check into that. But the reality is, why didn't you just adhere to the charter? As I said, refresh my memory. Didn't they make a motion they were going to invoke the charter and send him written notice that they want them down there?
And they did.
And they did.
Yep, that's under section 2-7.
No, wait a minute. Before you do that,
I'm not going to read it. I'm just saying it's under section 2-7.
No, but I want you to read that thing.
Oh, okay.
Because to my knowledge, didn't he also put in writing that both of us should abide by the charter?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Please.
I have that right here as well.
Please read that.
Well, in section 2-7, under the mayor, which is section C, mayor, the city council may request specific information from the mayor or on any municipal matter, and may request that the mayor be present to answer written questions relating to that information at a meeting that the city council may call within a reasonable time after the request is made to the mayor. The mayor shall personally or through a designee attend such meeting and respond to the questions. The mayor or the person designated to attend shall not be required to answer questions related to any other matter. The council may further delineate procedures under this provision in the council's rules. So not only did they do that correctly, they can also create in council rules things which add to this. So again, you cannot pick and choose. If you're going to call out one part of the charter, you got to go read out the other part. Okay? Now you're saying that you want all appointments, all requests for information sent done by resolution, because that is in the charter, that it does say should be done by resolution. Okay? But that means that the city council has to plan months in advance, which means, Mr. Mayor, you cannot send anything down to the city council to act upon if they can't have your chief financial officer there. And that's what that is. That's a request for information. That is a request to answer. That is a request to explain what is going on. And if you don't want to do that, you have something to hide. So get your butt out of the seat and do something about it. Let your people do their job. That's what a good manager does. That's what a good administrator does. You got to let them do their job. If you don't let them do their job, then you're nothing but a dictatorship and you're a fascist.
Oh, well, it's also what Nancy Pelosi does when she says things like, don't worry about what the bill says, just vote for it. We'll let you know what it says later.
Right.
So this is what people who are trying to con people do. If you look, I'm not saying you don't have the information. I'm just saying if you have it, show it. You made this, you dragged this out till the election. The perception that you are hiding something is overwhelming because of the way you're behaving.
Hey, and guess what? He always asks everyone else to prove it.
Yeah.
He's always asking everyone for documents. Here are the documents. You want to ask for them of everybody else. Shouldn't the same rule apply to you? Oh, wait, that's not the way it works.
Well, yeah.
Okay? When it works for me, it works. But if it doesn't work for me, it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
Wrong. That's not how the law works. That's not how the charter works. And you cannot pick and choose what you're going to follow.
Yeah, and he likes to make promises that he doesn't have to keep until after an election. As I said at the debate yesterday, he admitted he had a $9.6 million budget. He also said he had it plugged. Why didn't he just show it? Well, because maybe somebody in the council will question where that $4 million in healthcare you're getting it from and actually see if it's there, or if it's just a projection, or if it even exists. The other $5 million, you're going to get somebody like Kadeem that's going to pick that thing apart. You're just going to do it easier. Take my word for it. I got it plugged. Well, guess what? The legislative branch cannot take your word for it because they are the fiduciary. If they approve that money and it doesn't show up, who's going to get blamed? You're going to say, oh, they appropriated it.
That's right.
So that's it.
As he's done already, as he's done in several question and answer sessions, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I want to see the documents. The city council wants to see the documents. The people want to see the documents. But you are not representing the people. Article 1, Section 5 of the Massachusetts Constitution. Read it. Read it and understand what your job is. Because you obviously aren't doing what the Constitution says you must do. Therefore, you're violating the law again. You keep violating the law. The city council isn't violating the law. And don't say Cliff doesn't understand the charter. That's why the budget went through the way it did. The budget went through the way it did because you turned around and you finagled it to do that. And Cliff had, at that debate, all the information on the text from you and your then city administrator, who I believe is gone now, but I'm not sure. So, with that, I'm heated.
Heated.
There is a debate tonight, 6:30, Channel 95. It's also going to be aired on Facebook. Please watch it, see what happens, because remember, it's going to be interesting. I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. It's been a wonderful time.